Good afternoon, Miss Bridgewater. Hope you're
Good
well.
afternoon, Donna. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. The SAP reset date, please.
March 18th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Francois, good afternoon. Are you ready for me to give my announcement?
Yes, I'm ready. Good afternoon, Judge Morrow. Hope you're doing well.
I am, thank you. You as well. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their service. Who do we have first?
It's going to be position number 6, Ms. Horn.
Good afternoon, Ms. Horn. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001104C with simple battery family violence. Let's see, who do we have on from pretrial this afternoon? I don't know if anyone's on from pretrial as of yet. Ms. McCockey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I have that this is Miss Horn's second arrest. She does have a 2022, it looks like a conviction for unlawful for any person to purchase, possess, or have under their control a controlled substance. There were two charges in that case. This incident happened on the 2nd of March. I have the incident location is 3476 Shoal Oak Court in South Fulton. The victim in this case is Rhonda Horn, who is the defendant's mother. The defendant is accused of punching her mother during a verbal altercation. An individual named Mr. William Holland was present during this incident and confirmed the defendant was confronting her mother, and as her mother was trying to escort her out of the room, she punched her mother repeatedly, and Mr. Holland had to separate the two parties. Our office has spoken with Ms. Rhonda Horn, who states that her and her daughter do live at the incident location. She confirmed the events in the warrant, stated that nothing like this has ever happened before, and that the defendant does have some MH issues, and she is currently not taking any medication. She does want the defendant to get some help for her MH. She states that she is in fear of the defendant and wishes to have no contact with her at this time, and she wants the defendant to stay away from the residence. Given her limited history, the state's recommendation for Ms. Horn is a signature bond, no further contact with the victim in this case, stay away from that incident location, that she remain medication compliant, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Rhonda Horn.
If Ms. Horn is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity. Doesn't appear so. Good afternoon, Mr. Haddad. Is this your case?
It is, Judge. Judge, we don't have an objection to the signature bonds and for her to be released. My client is working and does go to school. The issues, honestly, immediately is going to be housing because she does live with her mom. I would ask for a one trip with the assistance of law enforcement to retrieve some of her personal belongings, including her cell phone. I think it was at the residence. But other than that, Judge, we would ask the court to grant her a signature bond through pretrial services.
Okay, as such, it will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Ms. Horn. Stay away from the incident location. She can go back to that location on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Horn. Ms. Grace, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Would you mind, I don't know if has anyone from pretrial joined us as of yet? If they have not, would you see who is going to join us this afternoon for me, please?
Yes, sir. I thought I was letting them in, but she must be back out. But I'll check for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Problem.
Who do we have next?
All right, Judge. For position number 3, John Davidson, He's supposed to have a private attorney. I'm not sure if he's on.
Good afternoon, Judge. I'm on for Mr. Davidson.
Okay, Mr. Allen, good afternoon. Would you like to take courtroom 2, Mr. Davidson, next?
Yes, position, yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Davidson. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001102G with simple battery. Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. It does look like this is Mr. Davidson's first arrest. I have that the incident location is 700 Eastbourne Court in Johns Creek. The victim in this case is Miss Sophia Davidson, who is the defendant's sister. The parties were having a verbal dispute when the defendant chest bumped the victim. The defendant stated that his sister slapped him in the face, but officers did determine that he was the primary aggressor in this situation. Our office has spoken with Miss Sophia Davidson, who confirms that the parties are siblings and states that they do not live together. She states that she lives in Kentucky and the defendant lives at the incident location with their parents. She confirmed the events in the warrant, says that the defendant has been threatening towards her in the past, but this is the first time that things have turned physical. She states that she's not in fear of the defendant and wants to continue contact. Given that this is his first arrest, the state's recommendation is for a signature bond, that he have no further violent contact with his sister, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and that he undergoes some anger awareness.
Mr. Allen?
Your Honor, we're in agreement with the recommendation by the state. This is his first offense. He's lived with his parents at that address in Johns Creek since 2003, besides the period he's in college. And I spoke with his parents and can confirm that his sister did indicate that she wanted nonviolent contact, and she left and went back to college at Kentucky today.
And I do believe she's on the Zoom if the court could sound
Okay.
for her if she wishes to make a statement.
If Ms. Davidson is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. You, of course, don't have to, but if you would like to address the court, I'll need for you to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and I'll have to swear you in. It does not appear that she wishes to address the court this afternoon. As such, it will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1, 1-day anger awareness, no further violent contact with the alleged victim, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Davidson. Anything further this afternoon, Mr. Allen?
No, Your Honor, that concludes my business, if I can be excused.
Yes, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. You do the same.
Judge, we also have another private attorney case. The name is Jonathan Hickson, position number 5. I'm not sure if he's logged on.
Does Mr. Hickson have an attorney that's representing?
He does. He has Brian Steele, but Brian Steele wasn't aware that he had a court case at the same time, Your Honor.
Okay, who is
This
this?
is this is Jonathan Hickson's mom.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Hickson. Well, I can reset this for tomorrow, or I can have a public defender speak with him this afternoon to represent him for this hearing.
Can we just proceed if you get a bond, and I can let Mr. Steele know?
Well, have you hired Mr. Steele?
Yes.
You've paid him?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't feel comfortable going forward, given that he has an attorney and making a determination without his attorney being present.
Well, I can
Mr.
show you the messages. He told me to just go ahead and proceed, bail him out, and he'll meet with Jonathan afterwards.
Well, I guess the problem is that he might not get the type of bail that he's looking for. Mr. Haddad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The problem in this case is it's a 3-defendant case, and we're representing Mr. White. And the other defendant is a conflict. I think Ms. McLeod is representing him. Stewart, I think, is the last name. So that leaves me with, I mean, it's a conflict.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Haddad. I appreciate it. Let me address you, Mr. Hickson. Good afternoon. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001103J with reckless conduct and discharge of a firearm on or near a public highway or street. Given that you're represented and your lawyer is not here, you can proceed pro se this afternoon. If you choose to, that means without the advice of an attorney, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. I can reset your case for tomorrow, or you can proceed pro se today. What would you like to do?
Proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson. Is there a history?
Good afternoon. I apologize to the courts. Just having connection issues. He does have 3 cycles. The last arrest was November the 9th, 2020 for possession of a firearm or knife during commission of a felony and conspiracy to commit a felony and a charge that counsel may want to waive sounding on, an armed robbery, and tampering with evidence and aggravated assault. Those charges were null pros on December 1st, 2022. He does appear to meet the criteria for UJR through the jail. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is my case. I'm going to present the facts to you, and they are applicable to 2 other co-defendants. This is an incident from the 1st of March. Specifically, at about midnight, police were called to the area of 3271 Camp Creek Parkway in East Point. This is a location that includes a portion of an apartment complex there specifically, as well as a club or lounge called the CRU Lounge. Multiple shots were fired. That was the initial 911 call. An officer working in the area was notified by security for the club, the CRU Lounge, that 3 men, and descriptions were provided, were seen immediately after the shots were heard, running and jumping over a fence and going into the lounge building there. Those 3 men then went and hopped back over the fence into the area where the apartment complex is, actually a few times, and behaved in a manner that looked like they were perhaps destroying or hiding evidence, jumped again back over the fence into where the lounge is, and then headed inside the location. 2 men were described as wearing all black and having long twists in their hair, and 1 young man was described as wearing a white t-shirt and only wearing 1 shoe. Police went into the location, had obtained the description of these 3 young men, and security, as well as the management for the location there, the lounge, pointed out the first young man in white t-shirt without a shoe standing at the bar. He was seen to have debris from a tree and grass or dirt on his clothing. When he was asked where he came from, he said he had come from his friend's house and indicated the apartment complex on the other side of the fence. That's Mr. White. He's in position 19. The 2 other individuals, all in black, were located trying to leave the location of the lounge. They were approached by police and ordered to stop. Mr. Stewart, who is in position number 14, as well as the defendant in front of you, Mr. Hickson, in position 5, were those 2 individuals, all in black with twists in their hair. Mr. Hickson, when asked where he came from, he said he came from behind the cut where the buildings are located, the apartment complex nearby. He was taken into custody. Mr. Stewart, in position number 14, was actually in possession of a firearm when he was taken into custody. It was clipped into the waistband of his pants. Security and the management for the CRU Lounge identified all 3 individuals as the individuals seen jumping over the fence and fleeing into the lounge earlier, directly after firearms were heard being shot off. Police went to the location where these individuals were seen in the woods next to where the fence is, in the cut between the apartment complex where the shots were fired and the CRU Lounge. And a total of 4 other handguns, firearms, were located, 2 of which were described as warm to the touch. Let's see. And lucky for Mr. Hickson, Mr. White claimed 2 of the firearms. So out of the 5 total firearms, Mr. Stewart had 1 in his possession. 2 of them found on the ground in the woods were claimed by Mr. White, and that leaves another 2 firearms unaccounted for. Police did a search of the area there and located more than a dozen spent shell casings, as well as damage to the property there at the CRU lounge and the apartment complex, as it relates to this shooting that had just occurred. I would note that all 3 individuals have addresses that are not that apartment complex. Specifically, this young man, Mr. Hickson, has an arrest on Bobby Jones Road in South Fulton, an address on Bobby Jones Road in South Fulton. We're asking for a $10,000 surety, Your Honor. Each of these individuals is charged with 2 counts, one for discharging a firearm near a roadway and the other for reckless conduct. $10,000 surety bond to stay away from that location, specifically the complex, as well as the lounge. No contact with the co-defendants. So that would be Mr. Hickson, position 14, Mr. Stewart, and position 19, Mr. White, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Thank you.
Couple questions, Miss Allen. 6 firearms, 4 of
5.
them. Okay, 4 of them you were able to determine whose they belong to?
1 firearm was actually in someone's possession, Mr. Stewart. 4 were found on the ground, and of those 4, Mr. White claimed 2 of them, which leaves 2 unaccounted for.
The 2 unaccounted for were either of those. Have you been able to determine if those guns were fired?
Not yet, Your Honor. Ballistics would take a little longer as this incident happened on the 1st, but circumstantial evidence and indirect evidence would lead, and it's the state's argument that these are firearms that were just involved in the shooting that had just been reported, and that it's not a coincidence that 3 of the 5 are accounted for, 2 of which were described as being warm to the touch, multiple shell casings indicating more than 12 shots had been fired, and that endangers the public, not just the people working and attending a club there at that location at midnight, but also the people living in and around that area. And I would note that what you just heard about Mr. Hickson includes multiple arrests for possession with firearms and committing violent felonies while in possession of firearms. I do understand that those aren't convictions, but they're concerning and they represent a danger to the public, Your Honor, and that's why we're asking for the $10,000 surety.
Any of those other cases pending at the present time?
Not that I am aware of, Your Honor, no.
All right, for each charge, it will be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2, makes for a total of a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. Stay away from the CRU lounge. No further contact with Mr. White or Mr. Stewart. Relinquish all firearms that you have in your possession. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Hickson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Next, Judge, we have position number 14, Stewart.
Good afternoon. Mr. Stewart, you have been charged in case 25CR001095J with discharge of firearms on or near a public highway or street and reckless conduct. Is there a history?
Your Honor, he has 2 cycles. The last arrest was July the 4th, 2022 in Columbus, Georgia, for driving without a valid license. That charge was dismissed on November the 9th, 2022. He appears to meet the criteria for UJR level 2. Nothing in addition.
Anything to add, Ms. Allen?
No, Your Honor, just that Mr. Stewart was the one who was actually found in possession of a firearm when he was stopped by police. When he was asked why he would be bringing a firearm into a location where that was prohibited, his response was nobody asked him or checked him when he walked into the location. We're asking for a $10,000 surety bond, Your Honor. No contact with the co-defendants, Mr. Hickson and Mr. White, to stay away from the location, surrender all firearms, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. I would note that his address is in Columbus, Georgia. He's got no reason to be over in that area.
Ms. McLeod, good afternoon.
Your Honor, my client does not have any kind of history at all. So I would ask the court to consider giving him a signature bond through the jail. My client is 21 years old. In the state of Georgia, he can legally carry a firearm. There's absolutely no evidence that he was involved in firing any guns. The fact that he had a gun on him is not in and of itself a crime. And based on what I heard the state saying as to how these people were identified, I do not believe that my client was properly identified, and based on what he tells me, I do not believe he was one of these 3 people who were allegedly firing gunshots. There's just not enough evidence to support that. So I would be asking for signature bond through the jail for my client. Nothing further, Your Honor.
It will also be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2 for each charge. Makes for a total of a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. No further contact with Mr. Hickson or Mr. White. Stay away from the incident location. Surrender all firearms. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
It was quick and easy today, Ms. McLeod. Have a good rest of your day.
Yes, it
Good to
was.
see you as
Thank
always.
you. Good to see you too, Judge.
Judge,
So
this
we
is
have-
submission number 19, Mr. White.
Okay, Mr. White, you as well have been charged in case 25CR001094J with reckless conduct and discharge of a firearm near a public highway or street. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Your Honor, he has 2 cycles. The last arrest was February the 19th, 2025 in Clayton County for possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That case appeared to be still pending. He does appear to meet the criteria for UJR level 2. Nothing in addition.
Anything further, Ms. Allen?
Other than to just identify that this is the young man who was seen wearing a white t-shirt and only having on one shoe as he went back and forth over the fence right after the gunfire, and then was found casually standing at the bar with one shoe on when police made entry. The security guard and the manager for the location, the CRU Lounge, identified all 3 individuals there on scene for police. Thank you. And this young man's address is noted on the documentation, Your Honor, for this case as being College Park. So also not the incident location, shouldn't be over there.
Okay. Mr. McLean, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Mr. White is 22 years old. He's from Georgia. He's worked at the airport with a catering service, and he worked before that at J.C. Penney warehouse. He told me about the marijuana case from Clayton. We would ask for a signature bond under these circumstances, Your Honor.
Also be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2 on each charge. Makes for a total of a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. No further contact with Mr. Hickson or Mr. Stewart. Stay away from the incident location. Surrender all firearms. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. White.
Position number 8, Mr. Mulligan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mulligan. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001113E with 3 counts of simple battery, family violence, simple assault, family violence, and 2 counts of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Judge, he does not have any prior arrests on file. He appears to meet the criteria for UJR through the jail. Nothing in addition.
Thank you, Ms. McConkey.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened on the 2nd of this month. I have the incident location. It's 10657 Camarilla Court in Johns Creek. The victims in this case are Anjana Malagu, who is the defendant's wife, and their 2 minor children, both with the initials AM. Officers received a call from one of their daughters, AM, who is 17 years old. She stated that her parents were fighting and there was a lot of yelling. Officers made contact with AM, and she told them that her father had been yelling and calling all of the women in the house sluts and whores, and that his mother confronted him about the way he talks to people. And while they were arguing, she heard slapping noises. And when she went to check on what was going on, she saw her father slap her mother. AM states that her mom pushed her dad away and the parties began pushing each other. Her 11-year-old sister also came into the room and helped separate their parents. The women did try to leave, but the defendant stood in the doorway, so they just stayed inside and tried to calm everything down. The defendant and his wife began arguing again, and the defendant proceeded to throw a charger at his wife, but missed. The 17-year-old stated that she observed her father punch his mother on her back 2 times after he threw the charger, and that her and her sister tried to separate them again. And then her mom and her sister and herself went to sit in the car. Shortly after being in the car, the girls and their mom went back into the house. The defendant and the victim began arguing for a 3rd time. The defendant hit his wife multiple times in the face. The 2 minor children once again intervened to pull their parents apart, and the 17-year-old proceeded to call 911. The defendant's wife, Miss Anyana, did have visible bruises on her left arm as a result of this incident. Our office has spoken with Miss Anyana, and she confirmed her and the defendant are married. They live together at that location and they share 2 children. She did confirm the events in the warrant, stated that the defendant gets very angry and talks aggressively in a vulgar manner to everyone, and that he is verbally abusive, and that verbal abuse always leads to this. When our office asked what this meant, she would not clarify. Our victim advocate asked if the defendant had been violent in the past, but the victim wouldn't answer directly. She did state that she has called the police on the defendant in the past, but no arrests were made. She says that she's not looking to press charges, but she does want no contact with the defendant and wants him to stay away from the residence. She also stated the defendant has called her from the jail to apologize. He will need a one-time law enforcement escort to retrieve his belongings. Given that this is his first arrest, the state is okay with the signature bond. We would ask that he have no further contact at this time with his wife or his children, that he stay away from that incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. We would ask for an FEIP, but if the court is not inclined to give that at this time, we would at the very least ask that he undergo some anger awareness. I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Anjana Malugu at this time.
If Ms. Malugu is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity.
Yeah, I'm here, and
Yes, ma'am. Let me swear you in first. If you can raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, sir, it's true.
Okay, you can place your hand down. What would you like to tell the court?
Uh, I would say like he's not a criminal. It's just an angry issues. I would like him to go through some angry management, stop using that verbal language. I mean, the thing what happens is when you use verbal language, your temperament loses both the sides. So that's the only issue. I have no issues from criminal background. No way. I won't say that. It's only an angry issues, and that leads to these all. So I would say probably we would like to live separately. Give him a chance to get through it. That's, I mean, I consulted my kids too. Kids also are the same thing. They don't say like their father is bad, but the thing is that moment, the point is very bad. That's where he has to cool down. He has to understand what family is, why we are there for him. That's the only thing. And I have no issues on him, but I would definitely say it would be nice if he stays away and learns that he should know that what a family is for him. Definitely, we all love him. It's nothing that issue with him.
Appreciate you being here this afternoon, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Not much to add, Your Honor. I've asked for the signature bond for this probably what are the same reasons the state is that there's no record. He's a software person. He has an MBA in business management and finance. We'd ask for signature bond, Your Honor, one-time escort if the court is inclined to have him stay away from the location.
Okay. For each of the battery charges, which there are 4 of, it will be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For the simple assault, it will be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For each of the cruelty charges will be a $500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Makes for a total of a $6,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 3 days of anger awareness. No further contact with Miss Anjana. Stay away from the incident location. He can go back to that location on 1 occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. Third-party transfer of any minor children for visitation. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Ms. Bridgewater, did you get all that?
I have it, Your Honor.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Good luck to you, Mr. Malugu.
Judge, and you said it was 6,000, total was 6,000, correct? SOB through pretrial level 1, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Position number
Yes.
15, Mr. Tate.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tate. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0011112E with driving while your license was suspended or revoked, driving on the wrong side of the road, willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, and fleeing and attempting to elude a police officer. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
He has 3 cycles. The last arrest was July 29, 2019 in Fairburn, Georgia, for theft by receiving stolen property. There was no disposition for that arrest. He appears to meet the criteria for UJR level 2. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. These warrants from November 2024 popped up when the defendant was arrested in March this month. The traffic stop was initiated on November the 10th of 2024. The vehicle tag reader indicated that the vehicle being driven by this defendant was not registered properly. traffic stop was initiated. Officers walked up to the vehicle where the defendant said he didn't have his license on him, but he had a picture of it. He showed police a photograph of his ID card. When police ran that information, it revealed that the defendant was driving on a suspended license. When officers asked the defendant to exit the vehicle, he refused. He then fled from that traffic stop, driving the wrong way down Hollywood Road, and warrants were obtained, Your Honor. So you've got an obstruction for refusing verbal commands, driving without a license, driving on the wrong side of the road, and misdemeanor fleeing. We're asking for a $4,000 surety, no driving without the proper license and registration, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And I was asking for that surety based on the fact that he was just picked up on felony warrants, Your Honor.
Tell me what some charges, felony charges are.
I can pull that up. One moment.
While Miss Allen does that, Mr. McLean, is your client?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Jonathan Tate is, I believe I've got here 22. I wonder if did I write that down right? Memphis, Tennessee for high school. Has been in Georgia several years. Might have written down the date wrong on the age, but his jobs have been for about a month or two now. He's been a security guard. He also has worked in his mother's business, and she has a business which covers quite a few fields, quite a bit of activity, pressure washing, other types of remodeling, even a tax service. So they're a busy family, and he helps his mom do anything that comes along. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond in this situation, Your Honor, given the small arrest record.
The warrants attached to the booking documents, Your Honor, are for March the 1st of 2025, felony level crystal meth and amphetamines in a car during a traffic stop, as well as firearms and multiple other co-defendants.
Okay, thank you. For the suspended license, a $250 good bond. For the wrong side of the road, $250 good bond. Obstruction, $500 good bond. Fleeing, $500 good bond. Makes for a total of a $1,500 good bond. No driving without a valid license. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Tate.
Next judge is going to be positions 9 and 10. This is Mr. Nolan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Nolan. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001107Y with simple battery, and in case 25 CR 001108Y with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers. Is there a history, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor, there are 18 cycles. The last arrest was October 17th, 2024 in East Point, Georgia for reckless conduct. There was no disposition for that arrest. He does appear to have an open case pending in Fulton County. Case number is 24 SC 005576 for criminal damage to property in the second degree. Receipt, possession, or transport of a firearm by a convicted felon, a felony first offender. Possession of a firearm or knife during commission of a felony, and reckless conduct. In addition to that, he appears to be on probation, first offender probation in DeKalb County for aggravated stalking. That disposition date was August 24, 2018, and the term is for 9 years. He does have prior misdemeanor sentence and a conviction. He received a no contendere sentence in 2023 out of Cobb County for obstruction of an officer. There was a conviction in 2022 out of Cobb County for obstruction of an officer. He does appear to meet the criteria for UJR a level 4. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Yes, Ms. McConkey.
Yes, Your Honor. Position 9, the simple battery family violence occurred on December 25th of last year. The incident location is 877 Virginia Avenue in Hateville. The victim in that case is Erica Nolan, who is the defendant's sister. The defendant is accused of shoving his sister during an argument, causing her to fall backwards. Officers spoke with the defendant's mother, who told them that the defendant does suffer from an MH condition and does have a temper. Our office has spoken with Ms. Erica Nolan, the victim in this case, who confirms her and the defendant are siblings. They don't live together and that the residence is their mother's residence. She states the defendant is no longer living at that location. She came over to visit their mother for Christmas and they started arguing. She said something the defendant didn't like, which upset him, and then he pushed her. She states that she walked away. The defendant began pushing and throwing her around the apartment and then proceeded to try to headbutt her. She states that they have had arguments in the past, but this is the first time that it has turned physical. She hasn't seen or spoken to the defendant since this incident, and she wants no contact. The state's recommendation is going to be based on the allegations in this case and his 19 arrest cycles, which include an FTA from this year and an open case. We will be recommending a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol, as well as a social worker visit to assess for any additional needs the defendant may have. Position 10 is a willful obstruction from February 6th of this year. Officers went to the address I mentioned before, 877 Virginia Avenue in Hateville, to execute a warrant they had on the defendant. He slammed the door in the officer's face after initially answering and then proceeded to flee the location. The state's recommendation for position 10 is a $1,000 surety bond, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. And I would just ask the court to sound for Ms. Erica Nolan.
If Ms. Erica Nolan is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity. Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Nolan is 30 years old, Georgia all his life. MLK Junior High School in DeKalb County. There are several King High Schools around the metro area. It's over at Panola and Snapfinger area. He's aware of his first offender matter that he's on. He's asking the court to set a signature bond if possible, but if not possible, then as low as possible. Your Honor, he works at a Waffle House as a cook, another place as a cook. He has worked as a manager at AutoZone before and cafe for coffee and dessert, and has done quite a bit of work in the last several years. So he does stay busy. Thank you.
For position 9, it'll be a $250 good bond, no further contact with Ms. Nolan, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. For position 10, it will be a $250 good bond, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Nolan.
Judge, ACDC can go next, and then Ms. Milton, we'll just do 1 and 1.
Okay. Afternoon, Officer Milton. Let's see.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Position 1, Crystal Alexander.
Okay. Let me go ahead and just address all the ladies there. Good afternoon. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is State Court Expedited Accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We're providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their service. So we have position number 1, Ms. Alexander. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
And Miss Erica Nolan, you're there driving a vehicle. I need for you to turn off your video, stop driving. You can't, this is a court session, ma'am. I believe that we've handled your matter as well. Good afternoon, Ms. Alexander. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001099D with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor. There are no prior arrests been found. She appears to meet the criteria for UJR through the jail. Nothing in addition.
Thank you. Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Mr. Mark Alexander, who is the defendant's husband. The incident location is 988 Tilden Street Northwest in Atlanta. Officers arrived at the location and met with the victim, who was sitting across the street from the home. She appeared to be flustered and at first could not explain what happened. Officers noted that she did appear intoxicated and they could smell alcohol on her person. She was eventually able to tell the officers that the defendant had grabbed her by the arm and threw her to the ground, causing her arm to break. Officers made contact with, she told the officers that the victim had grabbed her by the arm and thrown her to the ground, causing her arm to break. Officers made contact with the victim, who they said in their report appeared to be calm and also appeared to be sober. He stated that his wife had come home drunk and slammed his head into a cabinet, at which point he pushed her, which caused her to fall to the ground, which is when she said that her arm was broken and she went outside to call the police. The victim told officers that the defendant drinks a lot and then becomes aggressive towards him, and this is something that normally happens every couple of weeks. Officers asked the defendant if she had been drinking, and at first she said yes, and then she said no, and then she continued to change her story about how her injury occurred and then became irritated and told officers to stop questioning her. Grady did arrive on scene and they did confirm that the defendant's wrist was in fact broken. Our office has spoken with Mr. Alexander, who confirms that they are married, that they live at the incident location, they share no children. He did confirm the events in the warrant. He stated this is not the first time the defendant has been violent towards him, but it is the first time the police have been involved. He confirmed that she does have an issue with her drinking, but he's not in fear of her and he wants to continue contact and wants her to return to the residence. Given that this is her first arrest, the state's recommendation is for a signature bond. Given our conversation with Mr. Alexander, we would be all right with no further violent contact on the condition that she undergo an FVIP. We would also ask that she have random screens for alcohol and drugs. Of course, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Mark Alexander.
Mr. Alexander is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. I see you there, Mr. Alexander. If you would like to address the court, I would need for you to unmute yourself, activate your camera for me. Okay. Okay. Yes, good afternoon, sir. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can place your hand down. What would you like to tell the court?
Just that, as said, I am not in fear of her. I would prefer for her to be able to come home and to continue to work. And on the issues, I do. She absolutely does not belong in jail. And I was not something I asked for. I did not call the police or anything. And so I would definitely prefer as soon as possible for her to be able to come home and to be able to kind of get work through the issues.
Has this happened before?
No, not like this.
And you're not afraid of her?
No.
All right. Thank you for being here this afternoon, Mr. Alexander. Mr. Dodd?
Unless the court needs to hear additional information, Judge, I would just ask my client be released to pretrial, Judge, where they no violent contact.
Okay. It will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further violent contact with Mr. Alexander. 1-day anger awareness. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Alexander. You as well, Mr. Alexander.
Position number 13, Mr. Salinas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Salinas. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001096C with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
He has 3 cycles. The last arrest was January 21st, 2023 in Roswell, Georgia, for DUI and the sale of marijuana and possession of controlled substance. There was no disposition for that arrest. He does appear to meet the criteria for a UK or to the jail. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. It does appear that defendant has a few felony level drug cases that are open and pending just based on my review of the criminal history. This is an incident from March the 1st at about 1:50 in the morning. Police were called to 823 Roswell Creek Lane, There they actually observed the defendant standing over the victim. Her name is Jessica Castillo. There on the scene. When police arrived, he was ordered to step away and the individuals were separated and spoken to. The victim in this case, Mrs. Castillo, was noted to be intoxicated. She was not really coherent, but basically refused to answer questions. The defendant in front of you did answer questions, and he reported that the victim had been drinking and they were arguing, and he said that he pushed her on the couch and told her to go handle herself. He went to another room. The next thing he knew, she'd crawled out of a window, and he went outside and he was trying to bring her back inside. And that's when police arrived. So based on his admission that he was pushing her and the fact that she was particularly vulnerable and under the influence, you have a simple battery family violence charge. They live together. We did speak to Mrs. Castillo today. She reports they're in a relationship. They live together. They have no children. And she says that the defendant pushed her down, but that there's no violence in their relationship. So we're asking for a $2,000 surety based on the fact that he's out on bond on multiple cases, no violent contact, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, Your Honor. And if you would sound for Mrs. Jessica Castillo. Thank you.
Ms. Castillo is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, thank you. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond, even if there had to be random screens to show that he's not dangerous from doing drugs at this time. He is a graduate of high school. He has those cases open. He is a 4-year manager at a Chipotle. That's everything. He's 22 and he's from Georgia.
Be a $1,000 good bond, no further violent contact with Ms. Castillo, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir. Next.
Come on, Mr. Position number 16, Thomas.
Afternoon, Mr. Thomas. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001097J with battery family violence and criminal trespass. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor, this is going to be a bond surrender. The last arrest was July the 3rd, 2020.
Ms. Jackson, excuse me. Could you speak right into the microphone there? I'm having difficulty hearing you. I'm not sure if anyone else is. But
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's when you turn away that I have difficulty.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine. Thank you.
He has 21 cycles. The last arrest was July the 3rd, 2024 in DeKalb County, where a failure to appear. The underlying charge was battery family violence. This is going to be a bond surrender. He was out on a signature bond through pretrial services. That case number is 24 CR 006210 and the letter J for criminal trespassing and simple battery family violence. He does have a prior misdemeanor sentence. It was in 2014. He received a nolo contendere sentence. for possession of marijuana less than an ounce and possession and use of drug-related objects. He appeared to meet the criteria for UJR in level 1. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant is out on a bond on that 24 CR case. That's your bond. It was issued September 2024, and it is, excuse me, a $3,000 SOB through pretrial level 3. The victim in that case is the same victim before you today, the sister of the defendant. Her name is Conethia, C-O-A-N-E-T-H-I-A, Thomas. The defendant was ordered to stay away from her residence, have no contact with her, and have no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. This is an incident, Your Honor, from the 1st of March. Police were called to the location where Mrs. Thomas currently lives, 2965 Revere Court. She reported that the defendant has been allowed to come live with her. That's where she relocated. So he is in violation of the bond order from 24, requiring he have no contact with her. Police were called to this location in East Point on a response to a fight call. They spoke to the victim, Mrs. Thomas. She said that she'd been hosting a barbecue at the house, and that at about 8:30 p.m., her brother arrived. He was described by the victim as agitated and loud and severely intoxicated. She said that she asked him to calm down and to have a seat. Eventually, she asked him if he would leave. He pushed her and struck her, and he picked up her grill and damaged it, separating the actual grill portion from the legs. This was done in front of multiple witnesses. Obviously, there were multiple people present for this barbecue. Mrs. Thomas was seen to have a visible contusion or a bruise on her right cheek, excuse me. She reported that she'd allowed her brother to come live there. Multiple witnesses reported that they watched the defendant damage the property there and strike his sister with a closed fist in her face. He was described as incoherent on scene. He was arrested. He started to try to self-harm and made statements about harming himself in the vehicle on the way to the jail and was taken to Grady. He's also described as extremely combative in the jail, Your Honor. You did just hear about 20 plus cycles. This individual not only has a prior battery family violence conviction from 2011, we requested that this case be upgraded today, and that was denied, Your Honor. But multiple simple battery DV convictions. You just heard that his last arrest was for a failure to appear out of DeKalb for a battery family violence there. There's a substantial history here that involves violence to family members. We did speak to Mrs. Thomas today, and not surprisingly, there's some conflict. This is a family situation. She reports that her brother has a severe drinking and drug problem and that she very much would like for him to get some help. She's not very clear about the fact that you can't ask to not press charges, but then ask for the judge to help your brother. But we will continue to work with her to help her understand how the process works. At this point, we're asking for a $6,000 surety, Your Honor, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, no contact with Ms. Thomas, to stay away from her address. And now, since she moved, but he followed her, that is 2965 Revere, R-E-V-E-R-E Court in East Point. And if you would sound for Mrs. Thomas in case she has joined us, she is requesting no contact, and she does express that she is fearful. Thank you.
Before I go on here, the user 1048, ma'am, that you're sitting there, you're eating. This is a court session, ma'am. This is you are in court. You should be treating yourself as if you were actually in court with me. This is not a restaurant. This is not your dinner table. This is a court session. All right, stop eating or turn your camera off. Okay, that's very disrespectful. All right, so if she won't turn her camera off, let's turn her camera off until we get to her. Thank you. Now, if Cornethia Thomas is on the line and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. Okay. Does not appear that she is on the line with us. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Isaac Thomas is a Georgian. He is 39 years old. Revere Court is simply the address we have for him. Went through the ninth grade and went to part of the ninth grade at Washington High School. He works for a family business. It has to do with art design and is owned by another sibling, a male sibling. So he's worked there for 15 years. We would ask the court to consider the lowest bond possible in this situation, including a signature bond if that's possible, but a 1,000 or a 1,500 or 2,000 surety if it is not.
Okay, I initially, Mr. Thomas, when you saw me last, I gave you a signature bond. I let you sign yourself out. I'll put some stipulations on that signature bond. Apparently, you have violated those stipulations, so I'm not going to give you another signature bond, and that signature bond is going to be surrendered. All right, so for this case, it's going to be a $3,000 good bond for the battery, a $1,000 good bond for the criminal trespass, makes for a total of a $4,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Thomas. Stay away from her residential address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. And an alcohol drug evaluation and treatment if necessary. We're going to place this case on my March 18th SAP calendar. So if you don't get out, I will see you back at that time. Ms. Bridgewater, did you get the case number for that other case?
Yes, 24 CR 006210J.
Very good, thank you. If you'll place that case on that SAP calendar as well, I'll address them at the same time on March 18th.
Will do.
Okay, all right. Good luck to you, Mr. Thomas.
Position number 2, Jemiah Battle.
Good afternoon, Ms. Battle. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001101B with battery, family violence, and criminal trespass and damage to property. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
There are 2 cycles. The last arrest was September the 17th, 2023 in DeKalb County for criminal trespassing. That charge was null pros on December the 3rd, 2024. She appears to meet the criteria for UJR a level 1. Nothing in addition.
Thank you. Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened on the 1st of this month at 3901 Campbellton Road Southwest in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Ms. Lakeisha Terrell, who is the defendant's stepmother. The defendant is accused of kicking in the victim's door and kicking the victim in the stomach and punching her in the face, which did result in swelling to the victim's cheek. The front door of the residence was visibly broken when officers arrived, and there were pieces of wood on the floor. The defendant appeared to be intoxicated at the time. She was wobbling, had slurred speech, and was talking about numerous different topics. The defendant had been staying in the same residence as the victim for a couple of months. The state's recommendation is for a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, stay away from that location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Lakeisha Terrell.
Good afternoon, Ms. Terrell. I see you there. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. I will need for you to unmute yourself for me, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can place your hand down, Ms. Terrell. What would you like to tell the court?
I mean, as far as the staying away from, I honestly think that she just had too much to drink and she just got belligerent and didn't know what was going on. She has been out of trouble since her last court appearance and she's been trying. She is trying to go to the Navy, so all I want her to do is not drink. She is welcome if the court allow her, because I don't want her to be in the streets. So I'd rather her come back home, but she just cannot drink. I just honestly think that something triggered her more than the alcohol, and I don't know. Somebody could have put something in her drink. She was at a club before all of that transpired on that day.
Okay, now, Ms. Terrell, who is Miss Battle to you?
She's my stepdaughter. My husband passed away March the 1st, 7 years ago, and I've been acquainted with all of his kids since then. So she's been with me for a couple of months now, and she hasn't had an incident like that. I don't want her to think that I don't care about her, but I want her to know that every action does have a reaction, and she cannot do that.
Okay, and does she currently live in your household with you?
Yes, she does.
Okay, and do you want her to come back there or not at the present time?
I mean, if she wants to come back, I want her to come back, because I don't really think that this is something that she just does all the time. Like something transpired prior to her to getting to me, which already had her angry.
Okay, thank you for being here this afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Haddad?
Judge, I would just ask a no further violent contact and a signature bond through pretrial. I'm sure pretrial can impose, screening, for alcohol, Judge. I think that would satisfy the victim's concerns. And my client is 21 years of age, Judge, high school graduate, reports to me that she had been working at a retail, just as a cashier, Judge.
Okay. For the battery, it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For the criminal trespass, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 makes for a total of a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Random drug and alcohol screenings, no further violent contact with Miss Lakeisha Terrell, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Miss Battle.
Position number 17, Mr. Thomas Javaris.
Good afternoon, Mr. Thomas. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001098E with 2 counts of battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor. He had 6 cycles out of Alabama. The last arrest was July the 11th, 2024 in Jefferson County, Alabama, for a failure to appear and possession of marijuana and possession of dangerous drugs and possession of dangerous drugs, trafficking, and possession of controlled substance. There was no disposition for that arrest. He does appear to meet the criteria for a UJR to the jail. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from yesterday, the 2nd of March, in the morning between about 7:45 and 10:55 a.m. Police were called to 6338 Gray Fox Way in Riverdale. The victim, her name is Aaliyah Sanford. That's spelled ALLIAH, Sanford. There was a report of a domestic violence incident. The 911 caller, who was an audio witness, reported that the victim had called her and asked her to call for help. On scene, Mrs. Aaliyah Sanford was seen to have visible injuries, multiple visible injuries to her face. She had swelling and bruising to her face, as well as a busted lip and a loose tooth as a result of being struck by this defendant. She reported that outside when she spoke to police that she just wanted to get her things from the location and said that they were in the bedroom and directed officers to assist her. Police officers went into the location with her permission and detained the defendant. The victim reported that there'd been arguments going on throughout the weekend, that she and the defendant, who she shares children with, were here in Georgia on vacation, that they don't live here, and that she wanted to leave this morning as a result of all the arguing. The defendant became irate with her. He assaulted her by striking her in the face, causing these injuries, and then he went to the bedroom and got into the bed and went to sleep. Police then spoke to the defendant, who said that there had been arguing, but that he went to sleep and there was never any physical altercation. He described her as repeatedly spazzing out all weekend. The victim, Mrs. Stanford, we did speak with her today. She did inform us that multiple incidences in Alabama, including one of his arrest cycles, at least for a public order domestic violence crime in 2023, were for a violent incident against her. She reports that her tooth is going to fall out as a result of being struck by this gentleman. That this is an Airbnb where they were staying, and he became upset because she didn't want to engage in intimate contact with him. She is asking for no contact. They do share children, and we are in agreement, obviously. We're asking for a $4,000 surety bond, Your Honor. This defendant does not have ties to Georgia. This is multiple domestic violence arrests against the same victim with whom he shares children, and many multiple visible injuries on her face as a result. So we're asking for no contact with the victim. Again, her name is Aaliyah Sanford, and to stay away from wherever she may live, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And if you'd call for Ms. Sanford, thank you. You're on mute, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Ms. Sanford, if you're on the line and wish to address the court, now is your opportunity. Does not appear so. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, Javarius Thomas is 32 years old from Birmingham, Alabama. 12th grade education. He, for the last at least 5 years, has used a pressure washer and other things and skills to run a business called Finish and Touch Mobile Detailing. We would ask the court to consider the lowest bond possible in this situation, including a signature bond if that is possible, and a $1,000 surety bond if that is not.
For each charge, it will be a $1,500 good bond, makes for a total of a $3,000 good bond. No further contact with Ms. Sanford. Stay away from her residential address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Thomas.
Next, we have petition number 7, Ms. Jones.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jones. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001105Y with battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Your Honor, there's one prior cycle. The last arrest was July the 13th, 2013 in McDonough, Georgia for theft by shoplifting. That charge was null pros on August the 15th, 2013. She does appear to meet the criteria for a UJR through the jail. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened March 1st of 2025. The location is 2144 Peachtree Road in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Mr. James Patton, who lives with the defendant at the incident location. The defendant is accused of striking the victim in the face, causing a swollen bump on his forehead. The incident was a result of the parties arguing about the TV being too loud. The defendant snatched the remote from the victim. The victim snatched the remote back from her, at which time she started poking his forehead, pulled on his dreadlocks and his clothing, and then punched him in the forehead. Given her arrest history, the state is okay with a signature bond. We would ask for a stay away from that location, no further contact with the victim, that she undergo some anger awareness, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for Mr. James Patton, whom our office has not had an opportunity to speak with yet.
Mr. Patton's on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Mr. McLean?
Judge, that's
Oh,
actually, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Dunn.
Judge, my client is 30 years of age, Judge. She works as a bartender, bar manager, and she's been employed along those lines for a number of years, Judge. She and Mr. Patton have been together for 5 years. I've also not been able to reach Mr. Patton, but from a little investigation that I have, it does not appear it's never happened before. This is obviously her first arrest for something similar. I was going to ask for a no violent contact, Judge. This is the home where she and Mr. Patton reside. But obviously it's up to the court ultimately. And I would just ask for the court to grant her a signature bond. She does have a sister as well in town. But in any event, her preference is to go back home.
If Mr. Patton was here, if someone had heard from him, it'd be one thing. Of course, this could be modified down the road if someone does hear and he wishes to have contact. At the present time, it will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Mr. Patton. Stay away from the incident location. She can go back to that location on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Was there something, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, what's that bond amount, Your Honor?
A $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck to you, Ms. Jones.
Number 18, Mr. Watts.
Good afternoon, Mr. Watts. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001100J with simple battery family violence and battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor. He has 25 cycles. The last arrest was May the 27th, 2024 in Fulton County for battery and aggravated assault. That case appeared to be still pending. Case number is 24 SC 004139. He does have a prior felony conviction. It's in 2013 out of Fayette County for 3 counts of identity theft fraud. And there are misdemeanor convictions. It's one in 2018 out of Clayton County for driving without a valid license. One in 2014 out of Fayette County for theft by taking. Additional one in 2014 out of Fayette County for simple battery, family violence, and obstructing or hindering a person from making an emergency telephone call. There's one in 2011 for criminal attempt to commit a misdemeanor. There's one in 2008 for theft by taking. And he appears to meet the criteria for UJR at level 3. Nothing in addition.
Thank you, Your Honor. The victim in this case is a 16-year-old minor. She is the child of the girlfriend of this defendant. This is an incident from yesterday, March the 2nd, 2025. At about 7 p.m., police were called to 1070 Bolton Road, apartment 1316 specifically. Numerous 911 calls came in about this incident. The first 911 call came in from someone who reported that a young woman who is a minor had been assaulted by her mom and mom's boyfriend, who busted down the door to her bedroom and assaulted her. A second caller, a different caller, but similar, also reported it was an older sister of this young woman saying that her younger sister had been assaulted by mom and the boyfriend. Neighbors also called. Someone recalled saying they heard screaming from the juvenile victim and glass breaking. And then at some point, the mother of this young woman called and said that the 16-year-old child threatened her with a knife. On scene, when police arrived, they observed the mother of this young woman. Her name is Kimberly Cord. arguing with neighbors in the hallway at the location. Parties were separated and officers were able to do some investigation. Kimberly Cord, the mother of the 16-year-old juvenile, reported to the police that her child fought her when she went to discipline her and take her cell phone away. She said her child ran to her bedroom and that mom ran into the bedroom and busted the door down and that they fought. She said her daughter fled to the kitchen and got a knife and that a friend intervened. When police spoke to the victim, she was seen to have scratches on her face. She reported that mom and her boyfriend, the defendant in front of you, busted into her bedroom and assaulted her. She had been assaulted and they were angry because she'd been on the phone and they thought that she was saying derogatory things about them and the way that they were behaving in the household. She reported that she was pinned down. The defendant in front of you assisted in holding her down, and both he and her mother struck her multiple times. She said that her mother asked the defendant to leave the room, and when she was alone with the young woman, her mother continued to assault her and held her by her collar, refusing to let her get up. The defendant then came into the bedroom with a cooking pan and tried to strike her. At that point, she fled. She said she went to the kitchen and got a knife, and then she fled to the neighbor's house and asked for help. And that's when police arrived, when her mother was arguing with the neighbors. Police spoke to the neighbors who reported that the young woman had actually approached them recently and asked if they could request that she be a babysitter so she could get away from the defendant because he made her uncomfortable. And she'd reported to the neighbors that she told her mother the defendant made her uncomfortable in the home, and her mother told her to sleep with a knife under your pillow. And if he comes into your bedroom at night, maybe you should stab him. She reported that she didn't want to be in the home. The defendant spoke to police and he denied any physical altercation that he was involved in and said the child was disrespectful. I did not see any information regarding mom and her being arrested. The young woman, 16-year-old, her initials are KC. She was released to the custody of her father, and we have been in touch with DFACS to make sure they're aware of the situation as well, Your Honor. We did speak to KC's father. His name is Curtis Brown, and he's joined us on the Zoom. She reported when we spoke with her and her father today that she was speaking with her sister and some friends on the phone when her mother and her mother's boyfriend busted into the room and the assault happened. She was being hit multiple times by this defendant as well as her mother, and they held her down. She said that this defendant has not been violent with her in the past, but he has made her uncomfortable, and she gave some specific instances of that. She did report that there are 3 other minor children, I believe, in the home under the age of 12. She asked for no contact with this defendant. She said that her mother will absolutely refuse to follow any order that this defendant stay away from the residence. And so, Your Honor, we're asking for a $4,000 surety. You just heard that there's an open aggravated assault, 24 SC 004139. That deals with assault on a woman named Jacqueline Ellis, as well as her minor child, Jacayla Keith, which is open. He's out on a $15,000 cash bond issued in June of 2024. He's got prior simple battery convictions and prior criminal damage to property conviction against a domestic violence or a domestic partner. He was ordered in 2023 when he was convicted of simple battery family violence to complete weeks of anger management. So we're asking for that $4,000 surety, to have no contact with the victim in this case, KC, to stay away from wherever she may be living, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And it's the state's position. This young woman actually expressed that she felt it was important for her to return to her mother's home, but she wants to continue to go to school, and she's worried about the safety of the other children in the home. But it's the state's position that she should not be in that home, and she should have no contact with this defendant, Your Honor. If you would call for Mr. Curtis Brown, he has joined us on the Zoom.
Mr. Brown would like to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing well. So can you activate your camera for me, please?
Hello,
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you activate your camera for me?
Where did he-
He's right there.
Yeah. Hold on 1 minute, sir. Hello.
Okay, and get to a place where can you turn on a light for me?
Right. There we go. I just showed my face. I'm here.
All right, very good. Yes, Mr. Brown, raise your right hand for me, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can place your hand down. What would you like to say to the court, sir?
No, just that she doesn't feel safe, and her mother will absolutely not go by what you are saying for him not to be over there.
Okay, can your daughter stay with you?
She can, but we need to get her in school and stuff. That's no problem.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like to tell the court?
No, sir.
All right, thank you for being here, Mr. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, Terrell Watson, 36 years old, went to Manhattan High School, works at Ashley Furniture in the shipping department of the warehouse, has worked in restaurants in the back room doing all sorts of things, including even dishwashing, and in the front part of the house in other restaurants, as they call it, such as the Westin, as a host. Your Honor, he would ask the court, considering all factors, to give him as low a bond as possible, including a signature bond if that is in the offing. Thank you.
With a simple battery to be $1,000 good bond. For the battery, a $2,000 good bond. Makes for a total of a $3,000 good bond. No further contact with the minor. Stay away from wherever the minor's living. If the minor does go back to live at that Bolton Road address, he is not to be at that address. If she is not at that address, then he can be there. Abide by any defects, orders,
She's there.
no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond.
I'm there.
Mr. McLean, it appears that Mr. Watts is trying to get your attention.
The deputies can call me at extension 12-5215 right after court I'll be glad to answer his questions.
He has a question for you, Judge.
Yes.
You had said that I need to stay away from that residence, but I live there, sir.
Okay, well, if this minor child is there, you can't be around her, so you can't be there. Okay, if she, listen to me, if she lives someplace else, then you can go back to that address. But if she's ever living at that address, you necessarily can't be there, and you'll be in violation of this bond order if you are there. You understand me?
What if I'm there and she comes back there?
Then you're gonna have to leave. Okay, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to get your things and go.
Excuse me.
I don't know who this is. Who is this?
This is Casey, the minor.
Miss Allen? I'm reticent to hear from a minor witness in this matter, Miss Allen, but it's up to you.
Your Honor, you just heard from her father, and you heard from the state. You know, she needs to go to school, or she can stay with her father and he can enroll her in school from his address. It's the state's position that it is not in her best interest or the interest of her personal safety to have any contact with the defendant. Her father also just testified that she does not feel safe in his presence. So, if what she wants to share has to do with going home
It
to meet
does.
the other kids, then we would ask that just not be addressed now.
No, it has something to do with the living situation. He's not supposed to be there because my mother is on Section 8. The only names that's on that picture.
Ma'am, that this is not the appropriate forum for those kind of allegations. You can reach out and make a report when someone talks to you about your case moving forward.
Okay.
All right, so what I'm ordering, young lady, is that he is not to be around you whatsoever, okay? So if you're at that household, if you're living there, then he can't be there. You understand me?
Yes, sir, I do understand, but she's still going to bring him around.
Okay, and in that case, you let somebody know, and if he comes around and you're there, he's gonna be right back in jail where he is now.
Okay.
So you understand that, Mr. Watts? So if you want to end up back here, violate my order, then you will end up back here. All right, good luck to you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who we have next?
Position 11, Diamond Parker, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Parker. You have been charged in case 25 CR 00111-0E with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
She has one prior cycle. The last arrest was February the 25th, 2022 in Sandy Springs, Georgia, for driving without a valid license. She does have one misdemeanor sentence. She received a nolo contendere sentence for driving and was in 2022 for driving without a valid license. And she does appear to meet the criteria for UJR level 1. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. McConkey.
Your Honor, this incident happened on March 1st at 101 Harbor Landing in Roswell. The victim in this case is Mr. Shahid Hoyt. The parties had been in a relationship and lived together at the location. Officers received a call to the location and heard a woman in the background screaming profanities at another person. Officers arrived and spoke with the victim, who advised that him and his girlfriend got into an argument and things were beginning to escalate. So he left the residence and went outside. Officers then made contact with the defendant, who stated something to the effect of, "I don't give a fuck, I hit him." She further explained that she grabbed the victim and pulled his hair. Officers spoke with the victim again, and he expressed that he didn't like the idea of the defendant going to jail and doesn't remember whether the defendant grabbed his hair, but she may have grabbed his clothes at some point. Due to the defendant's disclosure of intentional and unwanted contact, she was arrested. Our office spoke with Mr. Hoyt, who confirmed him and the defendant are in a relationship together. They live at that location and share no children. He stated they were just in a verbal argument and the defendant pulled on his pullover. He denied that the defendant hit him, stated the defendant called the police, but he does not know why she called. They have gotten into arguments in the past, but nothing physical. He's not in fear of her and wants to continue contact. Given her limited history, the state is okay with a signature bond. No further violent contact with the victim, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and a day or two of anger awareness. I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Hoyt at this time.
Mr. Hoyt is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Mr. Haddad?
Judge, no objection to the signature bond and a no further violent contact. I'll just ask the court perhaps just to impose a 1-day anger management.
Be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1, 1-day anger awareness, no further violent contact with Mr. Hoyt, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Parker.
Position number 21, Mr. Nguyen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Nguyen. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001106C with criminal trespass and damage to property and criminal trespass. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor, there are 7 cycles. The last arrest was May the 16th, 2024 in Fulton County for criminal damage to property. That charge was dismissed on June the 10th, 2024. Does appear to have an outstanding hold out of Tennessee for a failure to appear. The date on that warrant was April the 25th, 2019. The underlying charge was not listed. And there's 1 prior felony conviction since 2014 out of Cobb County for aggravated assault. And he appears to meet the criteria for UJR at level 2. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Thank you. Sally?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred at 209 Edgewood Street Southeast. That is the Sweet Auburn location or the municipal building there downtown. This is from February the 28th. It's reported that security for the location reported to police that the defendant had been encountered previously. He was jumping over the divider and into the parking lot and premises of the location repeatedly. Security made contact with him and told him that he was trespassing and he needed to cease and desist his behavior. And then a few minutes later, he was actually observed by the same security officer jumping over the fence again, and he had in his possession a book bag. He used that book bag to smash in the windshield of a vehicle there at the parking lot. That vehicle belonged to an employee of the location. Her name is Nina Berry. The book bag had a large rock inside of it, and he was detained by security at that time. Mrs. Berry was notified while she was working in the building and came outside and saw that her vehicle windshield had been smashed. We've talked to her today. She's requesting no contact and for the defendant to stay away from the location. That's obviously the request of the staff and security there as well at 209 Edgewood Avenue Southeast. We're asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor. Absolutely no contact with Mrs. Berry to stay away from that location and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. The defendant does have that felony conviction here for aggravated assault out of Cobb County and multiple arrests and some convictions out of Tennessee for vandalism and domestic assault, Your Honor.
Mr. Dunn? Mr.
Oh, this is my,
okay.
Your Honor, he is 29 years old. He is a high school graduate and has for 4 years, 3 or 4 years, worked in a factory in the shipping department. So he's been very industrious in that regard. We would currently he's residentially challenged. So I have a social worker talk to him about advice on stabilizing his home situation. We would ask the court to consider signature bond, and if not that, then a 1,000 surety.
Okay, for each charge, it'll be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. A social worker visit to assist with housing. Stay away from the municipal building on Edgewood Avenue. No further contact with Miss Berry. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Wynn.
Your Honor, is that 1,000 on each charge? Making it
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, Miss Bridgewater. It
No
is
problem.
1,000 each charge.
Okay.
And you said signature bond through pretrial level 2, correct, Judge?
Yes, that's right. Okay, who do we have next?
Position 20, Miss Wilson.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wilson. You have been charged in case 25 CR 001109H with a fray. Is there a history, Ms. Jackson?
Here are 13 cycles, Your Honor. The last arrest was January the 30th, 2025 in Fulton County for possession of cocaine. That charge appeared to be still that case number is 25 PI 0000769. She does have prior felony conviction, one in 2006 out of Cobb County for possession of controlled substance, one in 2005 out of Cobb County for aggravated assault and possession of controlled substance. She does have a conviction, one in 2023 for simple assault.
Jackson, you're coming away from the microphone, I believe.
Can you hear me, Your Honor?
Now we can hear you.
Would you
Yeah.
like for me to start over?
No, you don't have to start over. Just continue where you are, please.
Okay. There are misdemeanor convictions. There was one in 2023 for simple assault and one in 2015 out of Rockdale County for 2 counts of reckless conduct. She does appear to meet the criteria for UJRA level 3. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident specifically from the Washington Road Food Mart at 3887 Washington Road in East Point. At about 4 in the morning on the 1st of March, the clerk there at the location, Mr. Seek, called the police and reported that there was a fight that was occurring inside the store. When he spoke to police on the scene, he reported that this young woman had engaged in an altercation with an unknown female there in the food mart. He described that this defendant, Mrs. Nina Wilson, was using profanity and calling customers names and being generally disruptive, that she then got into a physical fight with another female patron. And during that fight, multiple things in the location were broken and thrown around on the floor. The identity of the other woman is unknown. She fled the location as a result of the affray. This defendant came in with a disorderly charge. I amended that charge to affray. And here we are. You did hear she's out on bond for a January arrest for felony drugs. She's got multiple arrests and convictions for violent behavior, Your Honor. We're asking for $1,000 surety and to stay away from that location, the Washington Road Food Mart, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Dodd.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, on behalf of my client, she's 43 years of age, resides in East Point. No objection to the stay away from that particular location. She does report to me, Judge, that she is blind in one eye, and what happened is she apparently dropped her money and the other lady came and snatched it, and that's what the fight was about, and the other woman just took off with her money. Under the circumstances, Judge, I would just ask, in light of pretrial services recommendation, that she be allowed released through pretrial services level 3. She's a limited income, Judge. She actually does not work, is what she indicated to me, Judge. So that's what I would ask the court. And the residence is what's located on her intake sheet, Judge. I think it's Desert Circle or something like that.
Okay, it'll be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. Stay away from the Washington Road Food Mart. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Ms. Wilson.
Judge, we also have 2 positions that waive their appearance. It's going to be position number 12, Mr. Payton, and also position number 4, Ms. Evans. We can do position 12 first.
All right.
And Judge, I'm handling both cases. I spoke to both and they both requested a waiver, and I've submitted the waiver to Mr. Jordan, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Position 12, Mr. Payton, charged in case 25 CR 001114G with criminal trespass. Their history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor. He has 41 cycles. The last arrest was December the 16th, 2024 in Fulton County for a probation violation. The underlying charges were theft by shoplifting, a misdemeanor, and obstruction of an officer, a misdemeanor. He does appear to have an open case, and well, it seems like he has open cases pending. One in Fulton County, that case number is 23 CP 219064 for theft by shoplifting and obstruction of an officer and possession and use of drug-related objects. And the second case is 24 PI 002037 for theft by shoplifting and obstruction of an officer. And he does appear to be on probation in Fulton County for theft by shoplifting. That case number is 23 CR 00542-7 and the letter G. That disposition date was May the 23rd, 2024, and the term is for 12 months. He does have a prior felony conviction. It was in 2018 out of Cobb County for possession of cocaine. And he does have misdemeanor convictions. It's one in 2023 out of Clayton County for criminal trespassing. It's an additional one in 2023 for possession and use of drug-related objects. Another one in 2023 for driving without a valid license. And he received a nolo contendere sentence in 2017 out of Cobb County for obstruction of an officer. And there was one in 2017 out of Cobb County for 2 counts of theft by shoplifting. This one in 2016 for criminal trespassing. And he does appear to meet the criteria for UJR a level 3. Nothing in addition, Your Honor.
Sally?
Your Honor, this is a single count of criminal trespass from February the 2nd, 2025. The location is the BP gas station at 160 Ponce de Leon. The defendant has been criminally trespassed from that location on multiple occasions and has been prosecuted for shoplifting there at the location as well. His most recent shoplifting case was a felony level case based on his numerous prior convictions. This criminal trespass is just based on him being at the location and being identified by the owner and staff there at the location and police being called. We'd ask for $1,000 surety to stay away from the BP at 160 Ponce de Leon. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And we'd ask for a social worker visit, Your Honor, if that seems appropriate for the PD. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dunn?
Your Honor, I spoke to Mr. Payton. The issue boils down to housing, Judge. Although I'd gladly take the signature bond if he's eligible. Either way, I'm going to have a social worker go out and talk to him and try to make arrangements for housing. I don't want him to, give him another chance I'd hate for him to set him up for failure. So, I'll leave it up to the court as far as the bond, what an appropriate bond is. Either way, social worker's going to go out and talk to him, Judge.
Okay, it seems like something's going on with him. So have the social worker report back to me at the SAP calendar, and I'll take another look at it. It'll be a $500 good bond for now. Stay away from that BP on Ponce. Social worker visit to assess for an MHET or for housing. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. And again, Mr. Dodd, I'll take another look at it if at the SAP calendar.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, so the last one is position number 4, Deloria Evans, case 25 CR 001111J, charged with 2 counts of battery, family violence, 3 counts of criminal trespass. Your history, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor, there are 9 cycles. The last arrest was October the 4th, 2024 in Las Vegas, Nevada for DUI and misdemeanor. There was no disposition for that arrest. And she does have misdemeanor conviction. One in 2015 out of Arkansas for battery. One in 2013 out of Nevada for criminal trespassing. It does appear to meet the criteria for UJR level 1. Nothing in addition.
Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. I did see in her GCIC that she also has a 2023 arrest out of Nevada for a battery. This incident happened on the 2nd of March at 600 Garson Drive Northeast in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Mr. Richard Miramonte. Officers arrived at the location and met with the defendant, who stated that she was in a dispute with her boyfriend and she didn't remember what led up to the incident, but that the defendant had punched her tooth out. She also stated that she blacked out and was unable to provide much information about the incident. Officers did note that she seemed to be experiencing a mental health episode at the time. Officers then made contact with the victim, who stated the defendant had been drinking alcohol for a few days, and he approached her about getting some help, which made her upset, and she became irate and began punching him in the back of his head and also bit his thumb. The defendant wouldn't let go of the victim's thumb and just continued to bite it, so the victim pulled his thumb out of her mouth, at which he says may have resulted in her losing a tooth. The defendant then started damaging things inside the apartment. Officers noted that the TV had been busted, a closet door had been pulled down, and a computer had been broken. The victim also had bite marks on his thumb and a laceration on his right arm that supported his version of events. A witness who wished to remain anonymous provided officers with video footage that showed part of the incident. In that video, you can see the defendant punching the victim. Our office has spoken with the victim in this case, who confirms him and the defendant are in a relationship. They live together at the location and share no children. He did confirm the events in the warrant, stated this is the first time the defendant has been physically violent towards him, that the defendant was drunk at the time of this incident and was belligerent, and that the defendant tends to get this way when she is drunk. He says that he's tried to get her help with her drinking, but she refuses. When he left the residence after being attacked, the defendant damaged his phone, laptop, and television. He wants no contact and the defendant to stay away. She will need a one-time escort to get her belongings. The state's recommendation is a total $3,500 surety bond that is based on the allegations in this case, as well as her criminal history, which does have a battery conviction as well as a battery arrest. No further contact with the victim. Stay away from that location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court for Mr. Richard Miramonte.
Mr. Miramonte, I see you on the line. If you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity. You certainly do not have to, but if you would like to address the court, I'll need for you to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and I'll have to swear you in. Doesn't appear that he wishes to address the court. Mr. Dodd?
Yeah, and I would ask, well, my client's 31 years of age, Judge. She's works in the nail business, Judge. I would ask the court to grant her a signature bond, allow her a police escort to retrieve her belongings. That's pretty much all I have to say, Judge.
Okay. For each of the battery charges will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. For each of the criminal trespass charges will be a $500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Makes for a total of a $5,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. No further contact with Mr. Miramonte. Stay away from the Garson Drive address. She can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Okay, I believe that completes the 2 o'clock calendar. Miss Allen, do you remember on Friday when I was here, I thought that we had a juvenile that we were going to see again today. Does that ring a bell with you?
You did reset a case if needed for Monday to consider or reconsider. This was Mrs. Davis. She was position 1 on the calendar on the 28th. She got a $1,000 good bond and she needed to be released to a cosigner, an adult cosigner.
Your Honor, in that case, Mr. Chitaya told me he would be elsewhere today. I received a phone call from the person that was going to be the foster parent, and that person said they could not take a risk, that they weren't related, that they had been trying to help out, but they couldn't do co-signing if it involved financial risk. They didn't mind being the release person who would give them a lift from the jail and point them in the right direction again. But as far as actually being on any kind of risk as a co-signer, they were not willing to do so. So I said I would try to find out if there was some clarification of what was being expected if you did co-sign.
Okay, well, if there's a co-signer, if someone, I just wanted someone to agree to take the is it a young lady? The
Yes, Your
juvenile.
Honor. She's 15 years old, and she's the young lady who showed up at a woman's house after
Right.
engaging with an adult who's disabled online, and she had been released from the custody of DFACS. And so she's got until, I believe, April or so to return back to DFACS. The person she reported was her foster parent. Their name was Peace.
Right.
It doesn't
Okay.
sound like they are interested in being responsible for her, but they'd be willing to pick her up and take her somewhere. The issue is that she doesn't have anywhere to go.
So, Mr. McLean, the person, if you have someone, there's not going to be a financial. I'm going to give her a signature bond through pretrial, but I need for her to be released to someone who will be responsible for her at least until she gets to be 18.
I think what would make more sense, Your Honor, is for the defense to reach out to DFACS, who we believe has custody of this young woman.
I believe the state is right in that, because he just really wasn't willing to take any responsibility for what she did.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to find a place for her to go. So, will you all reach out to DFACS?
I will do that. It's a difficult situation. I'll go to the jail and interview her, find out which location she's at, and try to start, just from ground up, because that route wasn't going to work. But yes, Your Honor, we'll reach out.
My expectations always are that, if especially at this young age, that if you can start trying to locate something. I reset this specifically on Friday so that we could work over the weekend, because I knew I wasn't going to be here on Saturday. I didn't want another judge to have to deal with it. Now this young lady has been in custody for all weekend again, and we're right at the same point that we were at on Friday. So, so I'm willing to do what I need to do. I even told Mr. Chitaya that he could get in touch with Ms. Allen, and they could get in touch with me over the weekend, so that we wouldn't have to keep this basically child in custody.
Right.
But I can't do anything if you all don't do anything to help me. So to help her. So I'm going to be here again tomorrow. So if you all can see what you can do, and so that we can get her out of custody, I'd be very much appreciative.
Very good.
Okay. All right, Ms. Bridgewater, thank you.
Okay. Once again, the reset date for the SAP calendar is going to be March the 18th. Position number 1 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 2 is reset further notice with a total $3,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 3 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 4 is reset further notice with a total $5,500 SOB through pretrial. 5 is reset further notice with a total $10,000 SOB through pretrial. 6, reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 7, reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 8, reset further notice with a total $6,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 9 is going to the SAP calendar with a $250 good bond. 10, SAP calendar with a $250 good bond. 11 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. 12 is going to the SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. 13, SAP calendar with a $1,000 good bond. Position 14 is reset further notice with a total $10,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 15 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,500 good bond. Position 16, SAP calendar with a total $4,000 good bond. 17, SAP calendar with a total $3,000 good bond. 18 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $3,000 good bond. 19 is reset further notice with a total $10,000 SOB through pretrial. 20 is reset further notice with a $1,000 SOB through pretrial. And 21 is reset further notice with a total $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I missed a couple on here. Position 3, you said it's a $2,000 UJR through pretrial. I didn't get a level for that one.
Level 1.
Okay, and there's another one.
Okay.
Judge, if I may be heard too.
And position 6, please.
Position 16 is?
No, position 6.
Oh, position 6, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Position 6 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial level 1.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Judge, while we were reviewing the calendar, I received a call on position number 7, Tahira Jones. It was the alleged victim that called me directly. I asked him to contact the solicitor's office, but he indicated to me he wished a no violent contact. And I'm just relating that information to the court for what it's worth. And I can provide the phone number that popped up on my I can put it in the chat line.
Okay, so that was James Patton that you talked to?
That is correct, Judge. The number matched the number that I had on my caller ID. He introduced himself as Mr. Patton, and that's what he told me, Judge.
Okay, so if you'll get that number to the victim advocate there so that they can follow up. Given that he doesn't mind no further violent contact, I believe that we had no further contact because no one had spoken to him. Given that you've spoken with him, I don't mind changing that to a no further violent contact. Okay.
Judge.
Okay, and no stay away, Miss Bridgewater.
Okay, no problem.
All right, anything further on today's calendar?
No, thank you, Judge.
All right, no, thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Well, I'll see somebody tomorrow, I guess.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great one, everyone.
You as well.
Thank you.